This video is literally personally attacking me every single second I'm filming it. Oh, I feel overwhelmed today. Very, very overwhelmed. Again, this video is not planned, are they ever? And I've started recording on my phone, on my new little, what is this called? Tripod-y thing, and realised that all of my notes that I had made for the video that I planned to film are on my phone. So now I can't access them. We're going to have to reassess this. Hang on. Okay, take two. I'm now sat in my lounge because I thought this was like a cute kind of backdrop, and I've managed to get everything up on my laptop. So let's try again. This video was kind of planned. I just hadn't really planned through exactly what I was going to do. And as you know, if you've watched my last video, this year's motto is progress over perfection. So I'm trying to just do things without being a perfectionist. So this got me into like the subject of today's video, which is things that you might think are just bad habits, but are actually trauma responses. Isn't it fun learning about all of our trauma responses? I saw a video about this on TikTok and it's led me to sort of delve into it a little bit more because I wanted to know more about it. So I just wanted to go through some of the things that I have found. I've got them written on my laptop, which is here, but because I'm unprepared, it's not charged, so I can't like bring it any closer. Anyway, we're not being a perfectionist. So let's just go into the first point, which is overworking or perfectionism. Apparently, this is not just a bad trait. I'm gonna have to lean, hang on. I have to like lean in and scroll down. There we go. Apparently it's not just a bad trait. People often think of this as just being driven or hardworking. I don't think of my perfectionism as coming from a place of being driven or hardworking. I think it comes from a place of fear, honestly. I think, like I said in my last video, it's because I'm worried that if it isn't perfect, it won't be good enough. But anyway, we move on. It's actually a coping mechanism and a trauma response where the individual, so me in this example, believes that if they aren't perfect or constantly productive, then they're not good enough. Okay, so I just technically worked that one out for myself before I'd actually even read through what I was going to say. Also, the other facet of perfectionism is that people often with this sort of trauma response believe that if they are not doing everything perfectly, then they're at risk of criticism or neglect or being abandoned. So it is basically just a way of trying to cope with your own anxiety. If you can make sure everything's perfect, it calms your anxiety because then you think you're not going to be abandoned or neglected or criticised. I'm just reading through the next one and I am literally being personally attacked by myself and the internet, which, what is new? So the next one that is something that people think is just a bad habit but is actually a trauma response is avoidance and or isolation. I've literally just sent a video to my boyfriend who I'm supposed to be going to see later on this evening, who I'm really looking forward to seeing, and basically said, I do not want to leave my house. I want to stay in my house and not see anyone and not speak to anyone and just basically be on my own. Like I said, I haven't read through these and I really wish I had now. Okay, so when someone avoids social situations or withdraws from others, it might be seen as being antisocial or introverted. I've always been called an extroverted introvert because I am quite extroverted, but I like being on my own, so that makes sense. However, it is usually just a trauma response for when a person feels overwhelmed, which is exactly what I'm feeling today, unsafe or emotionally exhausted from being around others, due to past hurt or betrayal. I don't know if this is due to past hurt or betrayal, but it's obviously a trauma response deep within me from my childhood, where at some point I learned that taking myself out of the situation and isolating myself was like a safe option, which now I'm saying it out loud makes sense. Like I've said before, these are like what I like to call realistic like ways to solve these problems, and I am learning just as much as you guys are because I can't get on board with the like self-help kind of gurus where everything is perfect. It just doesn't work for me. I need to see someone real that's really going through it, So that's why I'm filming these videos, because hopefully it will help you guys. Okay, next up, people pleasing. I used to actually think a lot of these were just due to my ADHD. Apparently they're not. They are just all general trauma responses. I'm a huge people pleaser. I'm trying not to be as much at the minute. And it's not just myself. There are a few people around me that are also trying not to be people pleasers. It is difficult. People pleasing, again, is something that people just see as like a bad habit, but is also a trauma response. Often mistaken as being overly accommodating or lacking boundaries, people pleasing can stem from trauma where a person learned to prioritise others' needs over their own to avoid conflict, criticism, or emotional harm in past relationships or environments. This one actually probably hits home more than the last two for me, because at a very, very young age, I've been in not the best relationships, romantic relationships. And at a very, very young age, I learned that it was just easier sometimes to just keep your mouth shut and agree. That's not the right thing to do. And that's not what I want any of you guys to be doing. I want you to have that self-respect and to have those boundaries like I have now. But definitely when I was younger, it just seemed so much easier to just keep everyone happy, keep the peace, and not say anything. On the flip side of that, I've probably always been known as quite an, I wouldn't say abrasive, but quite an upfront person. So I think people that know me struggle to get their heads around the fact that I am a people pleaser, because in certain situations I will openly speak my mind, but in other situations, when I feel probably scared or worried or like I might be abandoned, etc., etc., it is just easier for me to be a people pleaser. I thought this next one was just ADHD, because I do this sort of like, not a test, but like this question to see what people's response would be. I ask, you know, if you heard a scream, if you were outside and you heard a scream, what would be the first thing you would do? And the majority of people that probably aren't doing this as a trauma response would say, try and find out where it's coming from, or, you know, call the police or something like that. My first instinct would be, check what time it is, because I'm going to need to know exactly what time it is to know exactly what was going on. And then I'm going to have to look around and remember like which cars are near me, which people are there, you know, literally taking every little detail. And after researching these trauma responses, I found out that that is something called hypervigilance, constantly being on edge. This is something that I've always done. And it wasn't until I met my current partner that I stopped doing it in public. So now when we go out in public, I don't notice anything. Whereas before I would have taken in every little detail and been constantly on edge just in case something happened. It says here that people think that someone is just overly anxious or paranoid, which is something I've heard so many times. But it's actually a trauma response where you're always like on alert, you're always in go mode, just in case, because you've probably been in situations in the past that have been unpredictable and dangerous. And now saying it out loud again, that is definitely where mine comes from. There's been a lot of situations where it's just been completely unpredictable. And I think that's also why I learned to read people so well. You know, little things like people's body language or the tone of their voice, or even the way their eyes look when they're looking at you, literally picking up on every tiny little thing just to try and preempt whether this situation is going to go south or not. Yeah. Another trauma response is basically because you are constantly trying to be aware of potential threats. And I just thought that all humans were like that. But apparently, if you haven't been through trauma, you wouldn't constantly be in a state of awareness where you're thinking that something might come and get you. Lastly, and this one has made me sad because it is overeating or binging. If you know me in person, you will know that I am obsessed with Cadbury's Dairy Milk chocolate buttons. When I say obsessed, I probably eat on average like 1/4 kilo a day, so like 250 grams a day. On a bad day, I could easily do like 500 grams of dairy milk. That's half a kilo, which is insane. And I actually didn't realise that this again is like a stress trauma response in my body. I just thought that I had a real sweet tooth because again, people in my family do. But apparently, although people might think of this as a lack of self-control, overeating can be a coping mechanism developed from trauma because it provides you a sense of comfort, control, or numbing from emotional pain or distress. This video is literally personally attacking me every single second I'm filming it. So if you feel like you actually suffer with any of these trauma responses, please don't feel alone, because I didn't realise when I pressed record how personally attacked I was going to be. So it does say that this overeating or binging usually tends to happen with people that were deprived of food or deprived of emotional support when they were going through difficult times in their life. I was not deprived of food as a child. I had a very good upbringing, but I definitely think that because of my inability to open up and being very closed off, rather than going to family members or friends for support and for comfort, I definitely would lean towards chocolate, and I definitely still do. I would say that eating chocolate probably makes up like 70% of my daily calories, which is terrible. I usually eat like one meal a day because I'm on medication for my ADHD as well. That sort of suppresses your appetite. And this year, my eating habits are something that I really, really want to get on top of. But for now, yeah, chocolate buttons. I did not realise that going to chocolate buttons whenever I feel any sort of stress was a trauma response. So there we go. I hope that that's been kind of informative for some of you guys. And again, I've tried to be as honest as possible and give you like examples from my life because I want this to be real and I want you guys to understand that you're not on your own at all. There are so many people going through things like this. And I'm going to make another video on how to heal trauma responses. Obviously, it won't be for all of them, but just sort of general ways in which you can identify and then learn to heal your trauma responses, because that is what I'm doing this year in therapy and also by myself. I keep looking down here because the laptop is there, because obviously it is still on charge. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. It would mean the world to me if you could drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me to be able to keep doing what I want to be doing, which is helping you guys out there. Also, leave me a comment if there's any other videos that you would like to see, and I'll see you guys soon.